This is the EUphoria podcast about all things EU LCS. I am your host, Drakos. Deficio is out sick this week. This day, he will be here for LCS. But lucky for me, we have two guests from Fnatic. I'm going to welcome you guys right off the bat. Welcome, Bwipo. Welcome, Broxah. Glad to have you guys here. How you guys excited about being up this early in the morning?
I think Brox is used to it, but it's something new for me, so it's all right.
Good.
I'm usually pretty fresh in the mornings for the... You know, I did look a little more awake than Bwipo here when we left, that's for sure.
Which I like. You're like one of maybe, I think, 3 pro players in the entirety of EU LCS that wakes up at a reasonable hour in the morning. So, shout outs to you, Brock.
Pretty sure those 3 players are on our team.
I actually think so.
All right, as a reminder for everyone watching, this is now a video podcast. You can check it out on YouTube. Otherwise, we are on iTunes and SoundCloud. We're also testing some new microphones this week. So if you are in podcast land listening, give us feedback. How is the audio quality? Let us know. The same is true for you guys on YouTube. I just feel like the podcast people probably notice it a little bit more. Updates on bets before we go any further. Memento and I are going to play Dress Up for Denmark on Friday. We didn't do it this last week because I was hosting. Memento was sick. And on Saturday, following the game, Deficio and Wadid are going to eat some hella spicy ramen and break down a Fnatic game. It was the Fnatic Misfits game was originally planned, but that one was kind of a snoozer. You guys just kind of won and then kept winning. So I give them the right to choose a more recent Fnatic game if there's a better Fnatic game. Topics for the day, we're going to have a mandatory Rekkles minute, a.k.a. the Rekkles update for all you Fnatic fans out there. I know that's why many of you are here. Additionally, we'll talk about Fnatic as a team outside of Rekkles. We'll play Would You Rather. We'll look at the tier list and figure out where we went wrong in the past and hope that you guys can set us right. And we'll answer some Twitter questions to round out the day. But first, the mandatory Rekkles minute. Gentlemen, where is he? Where is Rekkles? I mean, is he in the house? Is he playing with you guys? How are things?
Well, I think that, obviously there's a lot of questions about Rekkles and where he is he even with us in Berlin and all that. But the thing is, even after he got benched, he has actually been with us in Berlin the whole time. So for us, it has been pretty similar, except when it comes to scrims. Because before, we would obviously play with him every game in scrims. And now it's a bit more split. So we are splitting between him and Bwipo. But he's still around in the office most of the days. We're still talking to him. We're still playing games with him. So in that sense, it's pretty similar.
I think it's what a lot of people kind of wanted to hear. There's a lot of people, especially when you ask for Twitter questions for you two specifically. I got about, maybe 10 each for you guys and about 40 about Rekkles. Yeah. Is he still scrimming? Is he still playing with the team? So I think a lot of Fnatic fans are kind of happy and excited to see that. How is he? Is he good? People want to know.
I think he's pretty good.
All right.
I mean, the biggest issue is just that he doesn't feel like playing with him is going to be a win condition. He doesn't we used to think that obviously if we put Rekkles or Stana, we actually had a win condition in him. But we feel like in the current meta that if we were playing with him that he's not necessarily a win condition, and because he's not, I just have a way bigger champion pool that can adapt to almost every situation. So I feel like it's just a higher percentage chance to win the game. And I think that's the main reason why he's okay with with me playing, because at the end of the day, there's just more options, and it's not necessarily about our draft is easier or whatever. It's more that the enemy team tends to make drafting blunders, drafting against me in the bot lane because they just don't know where we're going with what champion.
On that
Giants, for example, they did not expect Yasuo to go bot lane, I think, because they randomly lock in Zyra and we're like, wait a minute. I'm going I'm taking the Yasuo. They lock in Vladimir blind, assuming Yasuo is mid because this is a good matchup, and then they lock in Zyra, and we're like, what the hell? We're like, these guys are really trolling, or they didn't know what they were doing, or they really didn't expect us to flex Yasuo.
I don't think anyone expects you guys to do any half of the things you're gonna do. I mean,
yeah, we pulled out a Gangplank.
Yeah, it's true. You pulled out a Wukong too.
I mean, yeah, but this is Caps. I think even if you had Marksman, there was a good chance you would see a Wukong in the mid lane.
Broxah, do you ever get jealous that your teammates get to play all this weird stuff and the jungle meta really never changes?
Well, obviously, once in a while I get a little jealous because most of the time I'm the one kind of balancing it out. I'm stuck on tank duty very often, where a lot of junglers, like Memento, for example, he gets to play all the fun stuff. He gets to try to carry the team, but I'm the one on our team who has to balance it out so there's not too many fancy picks, which is fair. There has to be someone like that, but
Thank God, because if my jungler picks Hecarim, I'm not very happy.
Yeah, exactly. Like 2 weeks ago, I did get some Kindred games though, so that made me pretty happy. Now I can play some tanks again.
Look, Kindred games are hype, man. I'm just sad that the only innovation that came to jungle this season was, now you can also play supports for your mid lane.
Not really the only.
Yeah, that's not true. Obviously, Kindred.
I actually think that
a lot of bruisers coming in.
I actually think that there's a lot of like stylistic differences that people can abuse. So like, you have the Camille players, and then you have the not Camille players. So you have the people that like go for Scuttle Crabs and Champions, and then you have people that go for Gromp and Raptor Camp.
I actually think the jungle meta is pretty good right now because you can play so many different champions and so many different styles. Like there's a lot of supportive champions, tank champions, but there's also a lot of carries. And I'm actually pretty happy about it now. And one thing is for sure, like it's better than being Caps' personal slave. Now I'm actually part of the game in a different way. So I am very happy right now.
Well, we can get Caps on here at some point in the future to ask him how he feels about losing out on a personal slave, a personal dog to play around him in the mid lane.
I'm sure Caps had a fun week or two.
I mean, like, it's not a personal slave anymore, but I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, jungle is still slave role. They want support. Like,
yeah, I guess.
Gotta go through.
They have to play for the
locked
lanes,
down for the team. So Broxah, you've never been here before, and I was kind of taking a look through your history. Me and Deficio both were actually, and one of the things that kind of stood out to us is that you've been doing a lot of these, or you have in the off season in the past, done a lot of these trips to schools in Denmark. So I wanted to kind of hear from you about this. Like, this is like a cool thing. It's not something that a lot of people do. So I wanted to know, why do you do it? What started it? Where did this idea come from? Kind of all of it.
Yeah. Well, so at first I didn't really consider it at all, to be honest. But there was this, it was a fan from home who were actually studying at my old school and who had been writing to me a lot and, sending me a lot of cheerful messages while we were in China for Worlds. And then once I got back home, back in Denmark, he was asking if we could meet up and if he could get a signature or, just meet and talk a bit to me because he was really looking up to me. And then he got the idea to actually come to the school and try to do a presentation or talk to some of the people because there were a lot of Fnatic fans in his class and at the school, apparently, like I found out when I went there. So that was pretty cool. Then, I just told him I thought it was a good idea, and I think already a few hours later I was talking to one of the teachers at the school, setting up a time to come and do the presentation. So I went there, I did the presentation, and it was pretty weird in a way, because by now I'm used to an extent to standing in front of people and talking or sitting on stage in front of a lot of people, but this was so different. Like, it was a little stressful and scary in a way, because I was standing in front of, it was all of 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, so there was like 100 plus students in front of me. But it was really exciting talking about. Well, I talked about everything from where I was when I was in their shoes, like when I was in school playing with friends, a little fly.
I'm trying to play it cool, boys. Just keep going. It lives on my face now. Don't worry about it.
What a champ.
But yeah, I just went through my whole story basically from how it was when I was in their shoes, when I was in school and just started playing with friends up until playing Danish tournaments, playing in the UK League, and then all of a sudden taking the jump to Fnatic and LCS. So I tried to go through all of it. And then obviously I also wanted to make sure that, because a lot of them were actually gamers and they were really into League and all this. So I come there and talk about how great the life is as a gamer. So I had to be a little careful and try to, end the presentation telling them that finishing school before going pro is probably a good idea.
Good for you. That's the thing you always have to add in.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people see it and they're like, oh, I could do that. And it's like, well, you got to remember there's like the other thousands of people in solo queue who didn't do it and tried and then backfired.
That's the thing, right? Like, it looks really cool. And a lot of people want to do it, but similar to being a football player, so few people actually manage to go all the way, right? And if you just drop out of school, then the chance of actually making it is not that high. Obviously, there are people making it, like Bwipo. It went pretty well for Bwipo.
I got there.
But it's not risk-free, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely not. But I think it's like cool that you're interacting with such. I thought that they were older kids. It's such a. I mean, like young teenagers. It sounds like, and that's.
Well, yeah, I guess most of them were like between 12 and 15ish. I did it at that school, my old school, and then I think a month later I did it at another one that was nearby as well. The other one was pretty cool actually, because some schools in Denmark have started getting like esports, what you call esports lines or classes focused on esports. So this class was even more into it, like much more, where there were so many fans. I was told by the teacher before I got there that there was even one of the students in his class who actually was wearing Fnatic clothes every single day. So there were some big fans as well.
What a beast.
And,
Dude, that man's committed. I respect that.
and when I did get there and, did the presentation and talked to them afterwards, he did wear Fnatic clothes as well. It was pretty easy to see, like, okay, this guy was the one he was talking about. I don't know, it's just pretty cool. And generally, I think a lot of people forget how much it can mean to people, like to the fans, to do something in that sense and give back to them. And for me, especially the first presentation was pretty awesome to do, because it was at my old school, and I also got to show a lot of my teachers and talk to them and say and show them that, okay, this is where I am now. It haven't gone too bad since I was your student.
Broxah for president, dude. That's some heroic. That's like the campaign trail right there. Dude. That's super wholesome. Bwipo, why aren't you as wholesome, man?
I don't know.
Where did it go wrong? Yet?
I think it went wrong when I dropped out of school and played 2 years of solo queue. The solo queue has molded me. Too many games with caps in it.
You can go to we'll have like a solo queue conference one day, and you can go in front of all those toxic people from all over the years and be like, guys, you can do it too. Except I know you, and you'd probably just be flaming that guy who ran it down for the first year.
I remember, but I don't hold grudges. It's just actually the fun fact is like Cap's one of the few people I actually held a grudge against. Like I actually hated Cap. Like when I was playing solo queue, and I saw Caps on my team on the enemy team, I was like, this guy, like he's really trolling. Like every game, he will either solo win the game or solo lose the game, and there is nothing you can do to decide it. Like if you're jungler and you run to his lane 15 times, it doesn't matter. If he wants to lose, he will lose, and if he wants to win, he will win. So I'm like, like this guy is like either monster smurfing or hard trolling.
Okay, so the question is, you're teammates now, so I assume you don't hate him as a person.
No, like once you know what I mean. Like I realize that he like only does it in solo queue. Like sometimes he just doesn't care. Like he just only trades. But I think he's just really good at the game, obviously. And when he plays controlled and smart, like he's actually like no counterplay player. That's how I like to call it.
For sure.
Like,
yeah, but
at the end of the day, at some point, he's going to kill somebody on the enemy team.
Oh, and I'm not doubting that you guys are on good terms now, but when you queue up in solo queue, are you still like, oh God, it's Caps? Whatever.
It's like, at this point, I don't care anymore. It's like whatever. If he ints me for another game, then whatever. He can give me if he gives me the stage LP, I don't mind losing some solo queue LP.
I think generally when you see Caps on your team, you really don't know what's coming. Like here the other day, I had him on my team in solo queue, and he was support. And when Caps gets off-roll, then that's when you're sweating.
Run
right?
for the hills.
And then he locks in Blitzcrank.
Oh my God.
He plays Predator Blitzcrank. The second he has goal for boots, he leaves Botlane and he does never return. He just, he was ganking people more than me. And to be fair, he did do pretty well that game. He did win. But obviously his AD carry was not the biggest fan of him. Like our AD carry was doing some serious mental strength training. Caps never came back to that bot.
Oh my God. Once he leaves, he never goes back. Went out for cigarettes, never.
Hylissang comes back for me. Mr. Hylissang.
Yeah, just to clarify, the actual support player comes back.
Yeah, I mean, he does like leaving the lane, though. He goes for a little, fishing with Pyke, really.
Yeah, to be fair, it's a lot easier to roam into mid and surprise 2v1 kill than it is to go.
I mean, yeah.
All right, boys. I want to know a little bit about Fnatic outside of just Rekkles, which is like...
Wow, really?
I know, right? It's crazy.
What a surprise.
You guys had a good week. Obviously, strong week. Now, looking across the season, you guys have lost to Misfits and Splice. You've now beaten Misfits as well. Where do you guys see yourself right now in the league? Top 3, top 2, top 1? You guys are tied for second with...
I think first place. I think first place is... I think we're the best team. Doesn't mean we won't drop a game, maybe. I think that actually, like in Spring Split, we had the same start, I believe. I think in week 4 we were 5-3, and we ended 14-4, I believe. Not sure if that's 100% correct, but something like that. So I feel like we're going towards that direction again, and maybe first place is not achievable depending on Misfits' performance and whether they drop more games or not, because they had a little bit better of a start than we did. But I think that we dropped 2 games because of Gold Funnel, both because we played it and G2 played it against us, and we like it was a BG.
Yeah, you guys. I mean, that was rough. The first week,
So
rough.
I feel like, even the Splice game that we lost. You know, like there was 2 losses against Gold, like because of Gold Funnel, because we did it and we lost to it, and then there was a Splice game where we just like me especially, like I had a really bad game. So I feel like those losses were like they're easily preventable, and I feel like as long as we play to a normal standard and the game is in a good state by like the mid game mark, I don't think any EU team is like good enough or like way better than us to like take games off of us from that point on, as long as it's not like lost. You know, like if the game is lost at 15 minutes, the game is lost, right? Like fair enough, it's hard to come back, but as long as we create a situation where the game is about even or good, I think we should be able to win every single game from this point.
So do you feel like that's what is it that carries you through in an even game state? Is it superior macro? Is it individual strength, individual players, team experience? Like what is it that puts you guys above the rest, assuming you're not drafted into a corner or someone doesn't hard in the early laning phase?
Well, I think we're in a good spot in most areas. I think our individual strength is probably the best in Europe. I think individually, on paper, we should be a really good team. And macro-wise, this year we've gotten a lot of help from Joey, and we've actually improved so much within the last many months in macro.
I'm sorry, there's always one fly. I'm sorry, continue. I'm trying to hit this fly desperately because Bwipo keeps staring at it. It's really distracting.
Yeah.
All right, continue.
I'll stop.
But I think at MSI, when we actually played that game against Kingzone and won, that's when we realized that, okay, we're actually a really good team, because we just straight out macroed the best Korean team out of nowhere. And obviously getting into the summer split, when the summer split started, we've been really inconsistent. So more than anything, I don't think we've necessarily been a bad team, but we've just been really inconsistent, and we had to pick up on a lot of those things we did at MSI. I think our individual strength was still pretty good even at the start, but it has taken us a while to get back into all the strategies and actually playing good macro again and playing as a team.
I mean, it makes sense too, because I mean, Rekkles, regardless of like individual skill on 80 carries, I mean, he was a component of this roster, and obviously, Bwipo, you were there as well, and like, you never got to play as this 5 until this season. So
I guess so.
I mean, it makes sense that it take a little bit of time. How has that transition been with you learning bot lane, with the potential for Soaz also to go bot lane?
It's been pretty good. I think, especially now, we're like actually like tapping into the advantages it gives us in game, because obviously there's stylistic differences that and more freedom to the support player when I play a more self-sustaining champion. So like if I'm playing a champion like Vladimir, it's much easier for Hylissang to have more freedom in the game, take more roams without having to worry too much about I'm going to get dove on the first wave, you know. Whereas in the standard meta, if you leave your Kog'Maw on or his little turret on his own, he's not getting out, you know. This guy is doomed. So we're playing a little more with the freedom we have there and seeing what we can do in terms of early game macro, because I feel like that was the biggest issue we had as a team, even starting in summer, is that, especially MSI, is that we were really banking on individual outplays. So like this was mostly caps. You have the Astro games against RNG that everybody remembers because of the solo kill, but this game was pretty much on lockdown on from RNG's perspective up until Caps did that. And then he broke open the game and made it into a state where it was a more than winnable game. So I feel like practicing early game macro and like having set plays that we can make is the step forward that we've made. And it makes us look like a very much scarier team, because I feel like as long as we get to that mid game, like I explained earlier, I don't think we're going to lose to any EU team at least. And having the set plays will make sure that we can get there, and we can at the very least compete in the mid game against international teams as well. Because right now, like I said, if there's no individual like outplay, like someone like Broxah is a really good ganking in the early game, for example, or Caps makes an outplay 1v1, or we get a 2v2 kill bot lane, the game doesn't necessarily break open, and it's not in a state where we can just wipe the enemy team off the map and just take full control. So working towards this and playing around neutral objectives a little bit better, and set plays, which is like tower dives or like contesting buffs or whatever, is what we're going to try and practice and be really, really good at this. And then I think we'll be the scariest team in Europe for sure.
I mean, you guys are well on the way. The only team to beat Misfits thus far, denying them, taking it all away.
I think that Misfits kind of knew themselves that their 8-0 was partially because teams were playing very poorly against them.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they played well. You don't win 8 games.
Yeah,
you don't go 9-0 without like playing well. I'll give them that. But I feel like when I played that game, I never had the feeling that we were going to lose. I was pretty convinced that was a win on the board. Like after I got ganked and died, and I realized I didn't get anything other than 2 kills, I was really okay with the result. And from that point on, I was basically okay. My Wukong is going to kill people. Like, this is the point where Wukong is going to,
it's mid lane for Fnatic.
The game isn't lost to 15 minutes. Wukong will start killing people.
So Broxah, for you, I kind of want to know how you feel about your growth and your development, because I mean, there was a period in time where I think that you were struggling on the Fnatic roster to like find your identity and to find your place in terms of like what you needed to provide to the team and like being consistent in that. But now it feels like since last split, and even in this split where you guys haven't like necessarily had the perfect split, where you've dropped a few games here and there, and you might feel like you're number one, but it's not as like clear cut as it was in the past, let's say. It still feels like you're showing up. It still feels like you're doing well. What's changed for you since joining Fnatic versus now, where like you really feel like you've made it as an individual? Because your name was like amongst those counted when Bwipo brought up kind of individual talent.
I think in the beginning, I was literally brought up to the team to basically do whatever the team needed me to. There was a lot of strong individual players with strong opinions and everything on the team in the beginning, and I was just coming out of nowhere. They would just tell me what to do, and I would listen. Like,
it makes sense when you look at your history. You're like subbed in halfway through a season with like one of the most veteran lineups possible.
It was a bit of a surprise for me. I didn't really see it coming, so I was like, okay, sick. Now I'm in LCS. I'm just gonna do whatever you guys tell me to, and then hopefully I can actually stay on the team, right? And then I think already in summer split last year, I slowly started to get into it. It got a little better. I did struggle in the beginning transitioning to tanks, because when I joined Fnatic in the first place, I was carry only player. Like it also in the beginning in my first LCS play.
I mean, your first like week and a half was, luckily for you, for public perception, was like a Lee Sin highlight reel.
Yeah, exactly. Like, luckily for me, in my first split spring last year, it was Lee Sin, Elise, and Kha'Zix meta. It was my meta. Like, it was actually what I do best. And then after that, in the beginning of summer, I suddenly had to actually learn tanks, which was really difficult for me, because in all my years playing the game, I would never play tanks. I would just only play carry champs, gank everyone, go for big plays. And that's actually weird to think of now, because at this point I'm not really known as a carry player anymore. And I also see myself as more of a supportive player in a sense. Like, I'm more the guy that has to like sit back and try to, look at the map and see what to do. Like, make sure to know what play we're gonna do, calm people down if they get too hyped, and just make sure we play the game slow and smart.
You're like the perfect rock. Like, we've talked about this already. Like you have to play what you need to adjust to the team comp. You get a Kindred game every now and then, but you adjust there. You have to adjust like mentally to calm people down. You need to look at the map and take it. You're the rock of Fnatic.
But to be fair, if you look at our team, already before we played with Bwipo Botlane, there was a lot of aggression. And before, when Hylissang joined the team, our bot lane started playing really aggressive. And I thought that Hylissang was playing really, really aggro. And it scared me a little once in a while as a jungler.
Anyone who's ever watched Hylissang has been scared, because there was a time, like, he looks really good now, but there was a time period where I was adamant that this dude was a coin flip player, because he would all in on like the most random stuff ever.
Well, all of a sudden, after going from Jesse to Hyli, there was all of a sudden a lot of aggression in the bot lane. And then when Bwipo joined him, then things went down in the bot lane. So for me as a jungler, like,
it was a battlefield.
It has been a little scary at times, because we have so many aggressive players. Caps also plays extremely aggressive. So I think generally me and Soas kind of have to balance it out in a way and
Yeah, I mean,
be a bit more chill and try to calm people down, play a bit slower.
let me put it this way: I tamed Hylissang. He's the one that stops me now.
Yeah.
He is the one that's like he's the one that says the jungler's bot side, by the way. oh, really? I didn't notice.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Like actually,
Hylissang, it's
like,
time to chill out.
When we're playing in scrims or even on stage, he is the one slowing me down. He's like, I don't think it's a good trade. The jungler's there. I'm like, you know, and now that I realize, you know, like, I tamed Hylissang, you know, like, holy moly, this guy's like slowing down. But I think he plays really well. I actually think he's been playing really well since I'm playing bot. Maybe I'm biased because I'm playing with him.
Hylissang, you're talking about, yeah.
Hey, he's been playing really well. I feel like we complement each other a lot, especially the champions I'm playing and the champions that we will be practicing. I just feel like I enable him in the sense that I'm always down to fight. And I think that's something that was sometimes missing from our bot lane. I think at MSI, for example, that Rekkles didn't always feel confident to follow him up and the other way around. So I feel like that's something that me and Hilly have worked on, and it comes to a point where I've been conditioned by the team by watching the team. So like the difference I think between me and Broxah is Broxah got thrown in to do whatever the team wanted to do, whereas I've always been conditioned from the start. When I joined the team in the first few months before playoffs, I was always watching the team play and trying to understand is what does Fnatic want from their top laner.
Yeah.
At the time, obviously top lane, now bot lane. But at the same time, I got to understand from like Joey's perspective, Dylan's perspective, all the players' perspectives, what do they look for in Fnatic's top lane? Mm-hmm. What do they want from their top laner? Like what champions does he need to play? And how does he approach the game? Where does he need to be? When does he need to be there? What does he need be able to do? All this stuff. And thanks to that is one of the reasons I've had a lot of success in the top lane in Fnatic. But the same went for bot lane, because obviously Hilly and Rekkles were playing together, and being in the team, I noticed this too. It's like, what does Hylissang want from his AD carry, and what does Rekkles want from his support? And I noticed that thanks to that, and thanks to all the VODs and all the scrims that I got to watch over those months, I got to understand, okay, this is what Hylissang wants, and this is like what he feels comfortable playing. So I think that played a really big role in me adapting to bot lane really quickly and being comfortable playing bot lane. On top of the fact that people were just really bad at mages, like at the start, like if we would like play against a traditional AD carry player, and I would just pick Swine into them, they had no idea how to dodge Never Move. Like they would just die.
I mean, we saw it in when you guys played Rift Rivals too. Those
yeah, Jesus Christ,
carries forget how to dodge.
Yeah, like they just forget how, like they don't know how to dodge the move, or like they don't know how to play around the champion. It's just so free. Like it's so free. Oh, but now it's getting better. People actually know what my champion does. They know how to play around it. They're using their brain. So it's a little harder to just stomp them. And I think that right now in the meta, people are realizing that AD carries actually have lane pressure on mages. So they're the ones that push the wave. That's why Heimerdinger is so prioritized as a mage, is because he's the guy that pushes the wave against AD carries. But most AD carries actually push in mages.
So let's talk about AD carries a little bit. Rekkles, still not playing, still not starting. One of the things that I feel like makes your guys' style so strong is that you're flexible and you can play just about anything in the meta. When AD carries come back into the meta, if you guys keep this 5-man roster, who actually picks up the mantle of someone that can continue that? Or are you guys just okay not having someone who plays AD carries?
Well, I think it highly depends on how good they are and how many there are playable. Because if AD carries are back, but you can still only play 2 AD carries or 3 AD carries at like consistently, that you can blind pick into every matchup, because I think that's the biggest problem, is that you can play champions like Ashe, bot lane, for example, and you can have success. But the problem is if this guy plays like a hard counter, like I'm not going to say Yasuo, because I'm not sure. Like, I don't know what the champion counter is. But anything with kill pressure. And you basically need to draft the lane with Tahm Kench. This is the Varus syndrome right now. Is like, Varus is pretty good right now. He's even like really good, some would say. But he needs Tahm Kench next to him. Or he just can't lane bot lane without getting just chain killed by mages because of the high kill pressure they have. So depending on how many AD carries, obviously if AD carries are really strong again, and there's several ones that we can play, Rekkles is going to come back, naturally. But if there's only 1 or 2 AD carries, I'm more than okay with picking up 1 or 2 and then just playing them at an okay level, so we can just maintain our flexibility and not necessarily have the highest like win rate, because at the end of the day, it's the same reasoning I'm playing over Rekkles. It's not like Rekkles can't play Vladimir, you know. Like, the champion isn't that hard. He's a good player. He can play it. But I'm just that much better at it, and I have way more options. So at the end of the day, if there's only 1 or 2 AD carries and I still have way more options, there's still a pretty good chance that I'm going to play, even though that 1 or 2 AD carries are OP, and we just either pick it or just draft around it. Or there's several ones and he just steps in and he can play 1 or 2 mages if necessary. I think this is the most realistic outcome. Because people that don't know, I think in terms of performance, I don't even think Rekkles necessarily has that much worse of a performance than I do in our practice. So like, he's still performing really well. It's just a matter of all the outside factors making playing me a little more reasonable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the flexibility seems like it's really important for you guys, and it's continued to be. Do you feel like you guys can, at this pace, because it feels like you guys kind of stumbled into this, right? In the sense that suddenly half of your champion pool in top lane was viable in bot lane. And of course, you picked up some other stuff along the way, for sure. But do you feel like if we keep seeing swings in the meta, multiple AD carries coming back, that you can keep up with that? You already mentioned potentially picking up 2 AD carries if those were viable.
Like I said, it's just a matter of which AD carries are good. Because, like, for example, Lucian is something that I've touched upon Lucian because he was the prime counterpick at Gangplank for some time. So, like, this is a champion that has been played top lane, but, you know, if you're asking me to pick up Kai'Sa and Kog'Maw, then God bless, you know. God bless, you know. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, at that point, you know, I just salute Rekkles. Like, we need you, brother. Like,
you can play the attack move AD carries. I'll play the fun ones. Yeah.
I mean, no, it's not necessarily that. It's just at that stage, if they're really OP and if he goes on stage and enemy team has to ban both just because he's on the enemy team, you know, then God bless, you know, let's just play the video game. Let's go. But if it's like Lucian Ezreal, I'm pretty sure I can play these champions with enough practice. It's just right now we haven't pushed ourselves. Like, I think it's a good idea because, like I said, I think AD carries have lane pressure.
Yeah.
But meh, you know, it's like meh. It's like I'm probably not going to be good enough at them. And like,
yeah, I mean, it's like a big investment for something that may not pay off at all.
You have this guy like sitting down, just looking at me. You know, like you have Rekkles just in the background, being like judging me. Like,
oh, you're gonna play Lucian today, huh?
Yeah.
You don't want to pick.
Think
Swain?
you're funny? Yeah. You think you're funny
Swain?
picking the champion?
How about you pick Kog'Maw?
Yeah.
Do it.
Oh, like that's what I mean. So it's like, I think if AD carries are back and they're good enough, I think we should just play Rekkles.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, if we end up in a meta where it's literally 8 or 9 AD carries for viable.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's no reason to play me over Rekkles. Like, at the end of the day, I still am convinced that he's a better player than me, don't get me wrong. It's just, I add more to the team as a whole.
Yeah.
Because drafting advantages, blah, 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 all this good stuff.
So I've heard you, Bwipo, talk a lot about how, like, the dynamic is different. You know, what is it, Goon Squad versus whatever for Fnatic, you know. So, Brox, I'm curious, you've been on so many different additions, let's call it rosters, I guess is probably the better word, of Fnatic. Yeah. How does it compare, like, in terms of environment when it's Bwipo playing on stage versus Rekkles? Is it like more calm and control with Rekkles and more wild with Bwipo? What is it? How has it been different for you?
I actually think exactly that is a pretty good description of how it is, because generally when having Bwipo and Huli bot lane, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot more action in the bot lane. I think they are both getting much better now at controlling the aggression and playing a little more smart. I think especially Bwipo in the recent weeks has worked hard on actually losing bot lane gracefully, as we call it.
Yes, bot lane gracefully. That was the goal of the week.
Yeah, this has been one of the big points recently of just playing a safe champion like Vladimir, sitting back and trying to challenge himself and actually not necessarily winning his lane, but just going even.
No
the grin on your face is so great while he explains this, Bwipo. Like I may have been.
It's really trolling, you know. Like, I mean, not even in scrims, you know. Team Liquid versus Fnatic.
Oh yeah, well,
I'm like Vladimir and I'm not level. Like that was actually the beam. Is that when I played Vladimir, like in our practice or on stage, I would legit either be under 50 HP or dead level 1 every single game up until like the 10th game we played him. Like, I'm not kidding. This happened every single game. I was either almost dead or dead level 1. Like, it was really troll.
Yeah. So you talk about that aggression is starting to get tempered now?
I think the aggression is getting a little more controlled now. I can trust my bot lane a bit more, if you can put it that way. Before, there was like 60, 40 or 70, 30% chance of my bot lane hardcore stomping the enemy team or getting stomped. But now, they're more reliable. Like when I go into a game, I'm not scared of my bot lane going 0-2 in the first 5 minutes. I expect them to actually survive if they need to. So it's getting better, it's getting more controlled.
Feels good, man.
And as a jungler, it's a great feeling. I quite like it.
If they need to, as if there's going to be some situations where they need to die. Like where they're like so utterly compelled that they have to go in and die.
Obviously, a lot of it was also synergy building, right? Like a lot of times where like Hilly wants to go and I want to go and it just doesn't work out. Also because of champion mechanics, because like there's certain combos, like especially Swain has some really specific things you can do bot lane only. So like you know, you have the Alistar Swain that was like really popular. We were one of the first teams to like pick it up because we realized how stupid it was. The first game we played it, we killed the enemy laner level 1 because they didn't know I could like headbutt. I could pull on the headbutt. So like I like Hilly ranked headbutt level 1. Headbutted into him level 1, and I pulled him into our creep wave, and he just died, and he had no idea what hit him, you know, like this guy was like, what the, like, you know, he was really, really, really triggered.
This is like the first time in the history of League of Legends where I feel like pro players have to start reading tool tips.
Exactly, it was really insane. It was actually like, me and Hilly were laughing our asses off for like the entire day because of that one kill. So like, because of stuff like this, where it's like obviously so much kill pressure on like every lane, that you feel like you have the power, right? When you feel like you have the power, you need to either unleash it or you control the beast, you know. And then I finally learned how to control the beast a little bit.
There you go.
Like even the game against Splice on Jarvan, I EQ'd forward when I had like 12 CS under my turret. That was not controlling the beast. So I feel like it actually is really good for me, and I've been learning a lot. And in terms of playstyle, and just being a slower player, and being a smarter player, just being like, okay, I could f this guy up, or I could wait until Broxah comes or gets close and then do it. Obviously, Broxah likes hearing that.
Going from the
like,
50-50 play to the 70-30, eh?
It's honestly like one of the things I realized in Fnatic, you know, because our players are pretty good, is if I don't feed, like generally speaking, someone on the enemy team is going to do it before I do. So as long as I don't, usually mid lane, but
call that growth.
Yeah, usually the enemy mid laner will end up dropping a kill. That's exactly what happened against Misfit. Actually, is like I dropped 1 kill and then, you know, that kind of sucked, but it was a really forced gank. It was a pretty good setup from Misfit.
It's so hard for me to be critical of you, even though you die. Not all the time, because you always come in here so happy. You're like, you look, I died, I fed, I did it, but you know what? Here's what happened.
It means I still have a lot of room for improvement, and that like motivates me. Because you know what I mean? Like if I went on the LCS stage and like I played like a game where I make no mistakes, or like very little mistakes, or the mistakes are like very small things. Like for example, oh, I could have played the lane differently and held my TP advantage here, and this could have been good, or blah blah blah. Whereas if I just straight up make a mistake and just int it, at least I know, you know what, I inted it. If I don't make this mistake, the game will be good next time. And I feel like that's like the biggest thing that motivated me after MSI is like I made a lot of mistakes, like a lot of mistakes in MSI. Like I played very mediocre, I think. And most people like were okay with it because he's a rookie, blah blah blah. Like you can give it to him. But for me personally, I feel like I underperformed a lot. And the fact that I made that many mistakes and still had a respectable performance in the sense that I wasn't like falling behind in any of the top laners, bar maybe let me, felt pretty good because I felt like if I just shore up the issues, I just make sure that I don't run it down anymore. That who knows? Maybe I am a world-class player.
World-class bot laner now.
Oh,
the development is there. One last thing, you guys brought something to share, to show. Broxah, you wanna grab it?
Oh,
I know there's a story here.
Yeah.
But I still haven't seen it, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. All right, so we have a. Is this a challenger jacket?
Hell yeah, dude!
Who's challenger jacket?
This is not just a challenger jacket. This is the jacket.
Yeah.
This is Caps' challenger jacket.
Oh my god!
Right here, everyone.
Yeah.
This is what you've been waiting to see.
Wait, can you hand me this thing? Can I see this thing?
Holy moly!
Of course you can. So,
beautiful. I was kind of hoping it'd say Caps on the back. It does.
Oh no, unfortunately.
Well, we were asked.
2016 challenger jacket.
We were asked to bring an item or something cool to show.
Yeah.
And then at first we didn't really know what to bring, but then I think it was Bwipo that got the idea, like, why don't we bring Caps' Challenger jacket? Because
There you go.
this jacket is actually really important to our team. And, well, the story behind it is that, so Caps generally likes to scare enemy mid laners off a little bit. So, if he's going up against someone, he feels like he has to make them feel a little threatened, scare them a bit. Then to the studio, he brings his jacket. He puts on his jacket, walks around with it in the studio, and when the enemy mid laner notices him in his challenger jacket,
It's over.
he will be scared. Like, the mid lane is won
over.
already.
Mental
We
advantage.
have 2 big mental advantages, right? So, yeah, actually at this point, every time we go to LCS, we all pay attention to if Caps actually wears his jacket or not. Because we know that if he wears his jacket, it's going to be a good day. We're going to win.
Wait, was he wearing it the day you guys played UOL?
What, UL? What
I actually,
day?
Friday
Oh.
this week.
I actually don't even think so. Like,
No, he only brings it for matches that he feels like it's necessary.
if he feels,
Like, so he
Popped off that hard without the challenger jacket? That's what you're telling me?
he didn't bring it to NA. He did not bring the challenger jacket to River. I was like, nah, I don't need it, but like, I'm not bringing my challenger jacket to
Yeah, I
NA.
was saying
Like,
NA
not
challenger
worth
very different from EU challenger, not nearly as intimidating.
He doesn't need it.
if Caps feels it's going to be a tough game, if he feels we need the power of the jacket, then he's going to wear the jacket. And that's when we know Caps is ready to make some big plays.
The game is good.
Every time we invite a Fnatic member on this podcast, we find out about a new Fnatic pregame ritual. So, do you guys still play Werewolves?
We actually played a different game called Avalon now. It's like the same
Oh,
idea.
same thing. Yeah, Avalon's
same
good.
thing.
Just
Like
another board game.
Camelot theme.
Yeah, same idea.
But I just feel like by like the end of next season, you're gonna have like 20 rituals. Like I'm gonna know about like Broxah's garlic necklace, Caps' jacket, the game of Avalon,
Yeah,
the dance Bwipo does every time. Like
Holy moly.
you guys have so many little things that you do to make sure you win before
I
the
mean,
game
it's
that are
just-
not at all related to League of Legends.
I mean, it's just good fun, Like, it's just really funny, like, because it's just something to blame. So there's something lighthearted, It's like, oh, we lost because you didn't have the jacket, and everyone knows it's obviously not true, but it just helps. Like, it makes you smile, Like when we didn't bring the jacket, and like, I have something to blame now.
I believe it. And we have a internal tournament called Rumble. We play every year. I'm gonna ask to borrow the challenger jacket to
Ooh.
strike fear into the enemy mid laner.
I actually think Caps told me this, but since Dylan joined, apparently Fnatic has never gone 0-2. They've always gone 1-1 at the very least. That's what I was told. That's actually a really interesting stat that I'm interested in seeing.
I could definitely not check it for you on the fly. I can tell you by Friday.
Yeah, that works. But like, it's actually
Literally after the show. I can tell you, but I cannot check that on the fly.
But it's actually really interesting, I think, because it goes to show how even when we lose, like small lighthearted stuff like this, like brings us back up and just make sure that we can perform on the next day. At least for now. I don't know how it was in summer last year or how it used to be, but for spring and summer right now, like it's been the same. It's like as soon as we lose like one day, we quickly identify the issues. Just talk over like this is not acceptable or blah blah blah. Like we can't have this happen, or this is what we need to change in draft, and then tomorrow the game will be good. And that's what's been happening. So ever since that I joined the team, I haven't seen our team go 0-2 actually, from what I recall.
Well, I can't remember exactly if we never had a 0-2 week. I don't want to promise anything in that regard, but I know for a fact that generally speaking, after losses, like ever since I joined the team, after a loss, the team would be really down and upset. Like none of us can really accept losses. It's not like we come into big discussions or argue or get mad at each other, but we just all have a really hard time to accept losing. Because we're just that competitive persons. And I also remember summer last year, it was actually the last week of regular split. We had a week where we were about to play NIP, the NIP that was viewed as a very bad LCS team.
It was a very bad LCS team, yeah.
And we had a week where first we went up against NIP, and then we went up against G2 after in the same week. And somehow we got completely stomped by NIP. Like
that was the Nagne game. Was that one of the games where Nagne popped off?
Yeah, could be. I'm not even sure exactly what happened. I've probably tried my best to forget about it because it was a little rough. But I just remember we went into the game, generally speaking, looking at everything like surrounding the team. Like we thought we would win. Everyone thought we would win around the scene. and then we go into the game and they just completely stomp us. And then, I think the first 10-15 minutes after the game were a little rough, like everyone were a little upset, but usually we're pretty good at actually talking about it, what we need to improve for next time. So in the same week, we got completely destroyed by NIP, and then we absolutely smashed G2. Like, it actually didn't make any sense in a way, but we're just pretty good that once it starts going wrong, then we just give it a little extra next time and make sure that we actually win.
I think from the perspective of any kind of Fnatic fan, that's probably exactly what they want to hear, so that if you ever have a bad Friday, they can like keep the faith going into Saturday, no matter who you're facing.
Yeah, for sure.
Or a rough first week of Worlds group stage into the miracle second week if we see it again this year.
Actually, I think, generally speaking, looking at our team, we've always performed the best when we feel threatened or when we really have something to lose. I think, especially last year when we played the semifinals matches, we would always do pretty poorly compared to what was expected from us, and we would end up in third places. And then when we were in the gauntlet, we actually really popped off. Like, we usually play really well in those matches where we really have something to lose. So in the gauntlet, we did really well against H2K. At Worlds, we somehow managed to show up, because when we feel threatened and when we feel like things are going south, we kind of bring back the animal style in a way, the style where
we unleash the beast.
We know we have nothing to lose, so we just go full ham and hope for the best.
Best example of this is the tiebreaker against Team Liquid at MSI, I think. Like, the best example I experienced, because the very first play we made was Caps roaming bot, flashing behind the enemy bot lane's tier 1 at minute like 5 and going for a gank. Like, no fear, you know, like, we're playing a tiebreaker match to go to playoffs at MSI, and Caps, the first thing he does, like, I think I can flash behind their turret and gank bot lane, you know, and everyone's like, Caps? Like, you know, like, and he just goes, you know, and then, holy shit, like, it's really incredible, because the entire game through, he showed no fear and just hard carried all of us. It was insane.
Look, if Unleash the Beast is not on an entire line of Fnatic merch by the end of the year, I'm gonna be severely disappointed.
Yeah, it's
also just a hype conceptually, I think, as a viewing experience. Because now when I cast, I can say, "Oh, well, there, Bwipo.
Yeah,
tried to Unleash the Beast.
It didn't work." And then you can say we're controlling the Beast too, because that's basically been the theme for me in Caps. I think Caps in terms of champion pool, we have to control the Beast in his champion pool. And for me, it's during the laning phase. I have to
you let him play Wukong this week. You're controlling the Beast.
That was controlling. That was it.
I think that's actually controlling the Beast compared to some of the ideas we're experiencing. The Wukong was actually
mild.
Was tame.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's also because it's like when he wants to, or at least when he needs to, he plays very controlled. Like, this entire game, like, I think the Wukong game is a very good example where Caps just played very controlled, and when the game, like, when the situation was good, he just goes in and pops off. You know, like, he plays controlled the entire game, and then like at 25 minutes, he just decides the game is over. Flashes in on Lucian, one shots the guy. You know, like, that's what I'm saying. It just goes to show you that he can play a very controlled style. It's very scary for the enemy team, I think, because you never know when he's coming. You never know when the beast is getting unleashed.
That's like the weirdest Fnatic fan. This is like the Fnatic. All right, boys. Thanks for talking about Fnatic. Next up, we're going to play Would You Rather. I have two for you guys today. One of them's kind of weird. It's more like you get X, but it comes at a cost. It's kind of like deal with the devil kind of thing. We'll start with that one. So you gain perfect knowledge of League of Legends. Macro knowledge, champion knowledge, everything. In-game, however, you can only communicate in emotes and pings.
Oh, that's easy.
Would you take that deal?
Absolutely.
Okay.
For sure. Like, what the hell? For sure. Easily.
Easily?
Not even a question. Like, what the hell?
Not speak at all. You get emotes and pings.
Hell no. Like,
you get 5 emotes. You get like 5
Yeah,
pings.
no, I don't even need the emotes. Just give me the pings. I'll do fine.
I actually think the same. If you have perfect knowledge of League of Legends, like, basically you just need a guy to, like, constantly look at what the guy with the perfect knowledge is doing to read his ping. So if I have perfect knowledge, then maybe Huli can just look where I'm spam pinging, so I spam ping to go here and here, and then he can be the shot caller in that sense.
Oh my god! So you guys would you just create like a communication system?
I wouldn't. I would just run around smurfing. Like our perfect knowledge it doesn't. You know what I mean? Just ping assist here, ping assist there, go there, like ping on my way here.
So it's not even like you'd level up your team. You just accept that you're.
No. I mean, like you'd be really smurfing, and then the only thing you have to do is just like ping on my way, and then your team knows. Oh, he wants to fight. All right, let's go. I think that like pings are actually like a really good way of communicating. I ping when we're playing competitively. Like if you look at the minimap when I'm playing, one thing I notice is like we ping the map quite often. Like for example, if we're lane swapping for teams scouting us, we'll probably have noticed that I will ping on my way on the top lane tier 1.
There you go.
That way SOAS knows for sure, like I am coming top lane. Or like, for example, like I want to do Herald, I'll ping assist or I'll ping on my way, like depending on what I want to do. I'll ping assist if I want someone to hit it. I'll say, I think we should do Herald, then if I ping assist, it means I'm not hitting it. I'm
gonna make this more complicated because you guys are both too eager. All right, new situation. You get perfect knowledge of League of Legends.
All right.
The rest of your team are mechanically good players, but are in macro terms are dumb as hell, and you now have to lead an entire team exclusively with pings. Still the same thing.
I mean, as long as they don't like ego, like if they have ego and they don't listen to you, then it's FF, But as long as they're reasonable and they know you're like really smart and they listen, it's fine, no?
I think it depends a lot on the team and the exact situation, because I think in some cases you're gonna feel like you're actually. Well, you're really hard stuck in a really bad team, and depending on how bad the players actually are, you might even be at the bottom of the standing.
Yeah, obviously, but like if they're mechanically like not monkeys, like if they can play the video game, use the mouse and keyboard like human beings.
So
then
it depends.
Fine.
Like if they're actually decent to a certain level and they're like trying their best to actually get better and don't have ego and listen to you, then it's fine. But if they're really bad at the game while having a big ego and just ignore everything you tell them, then I think you're gonna get a mental breakdown really fast.
Get me out. No, but that's obviously the benchmark there. And even then, because obviously you didn't specify criteria, you can just be a coach.
I'm saying your entire. What if you can only communicate via ping? Like,
like even as a coach, you can't just outside of the game.
Say you're like,
so not even outside of the game, you can't help them.
You can't write. You can't speak. You can communicate. Let's level it up one more time.
That's actually
one more time.
Oh yeah, no. Then obviously I don't think it's like.
But everyone knows. Here's the thing. Everyone knows you're the best Legends player, and you're like the smartest.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think at that point it would just have to be like, you just have to like. Just link your, you record your games and then just like go to your coach and just put it on the table. Here you go. Like this is what, like you can't even say this is what I want our team to do. You just be like,
open up league.
Yeah.
Ping, ping, ping.
I think at that point, if you can't even speak and explain outside the game, it's really not worth it. Then I think it would be really, really depressing.
Yeah. I mean, like obviously, I imagine you can still talk about other stuff, just not legal.
Sure, just not.
Yeah. That's my point. Like at that point, like. I'm sure you could work around it, and I'm sure it would be worth the while, because you would be faker, it'd be like super faker, you'd be hard smurfing. But
all right, good to hear communication's at least a little important to a degree.
I mean, it's
of course, it's really, really important.
But also, I think the point for me is that the ping system is actually pretty useful. Like, I think the biggest difference between high and low elo is that low elo does not ping. They refuse to ping for some reason. Whereas my 6 ping is not always because my jungler is feeding.
Ping system then, carrying it through. All right, last one for the week. You get a team. So let's say you're a team owner or a coach or a manager, whatever. You can have a team consisting of 3-star players and 2 absolute trash cans. Or you can get 5 average players. What would you take?
Depends how trash can the trash can is.
I'm talking, let's say like
gold 5?
Let's say like they have like bare minimum mechanical fundamentals for pro.
Diamond 3, like
sure. And they're like, but they're like not smart in macro sense, but they will probably lose lane to most LCS players, but they won't like hard int most of the time.
All right, the question is, will they solo lose the game or not? Because if you have 3 people that are smurfing and you have 3 people that can solo win the game and you only have 2 that can solo lose.
Yeah, I would actually take the 3-star players and the 2 really bad players, because I think for the most part, if they are actually decently smart and actually want to play safe and let the others carry them, then it can be fine. But it really depends on the situation again, because if these guys are not that great at the game and at the same time want to carry, then it's not gonna end up very well. So
I like this. Broxah, you always take into account what kind of people they are, like what their personality.
Well, if they can, if they can accept, sitting a bit back and just playing safe, then I'm sure they will get carried and do well.
Important. If they're mid jungle and your mid jungle is trash can, FF. Like FF. I don't care if you have 3-star players in top and bot lane. If they're not mid or jungle, then go next really fast.
What if you like your star players are mid and jungle, but
then it's like the free like
sure. But those are your let's
sign them like right now.
You only get 2 and they're
only get 2 mid jungle. Like I would really consider it, because I think like if you have a good mid jungle 2v2 and they know how to play around each other, like you can have like as many trash cans as you want, like
hard carry. So for everyone out there looking to duo queue, mid jungle is how you control the game.
I mean, it's like Hilly actually talked to me yesterday, and it was the funniest thing. Like at least I thought, and he was just like randomly saying like, yeah, like we don't really have hands bot lane, like we don't really have hands bot lane. Like basically how it started was he was saying that if Caps is good in the game is in good hands, and I was like jokingly saying, what about me? What if I'm good in the game? Are my hands not good enough? And he's like, but you don't have hands. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell? Like he's just flaming me, It's like, no. It's just bot lane. Like you just don't have hands compared to mid lane. Like you don't have as much impact in the game. It's just not a good enough lane. It's like it doesn't matter if it's me or it's Broxah or Soaz. You don't have hands compared to mid lane.
At the same time, I think it's kind of a meme in a way, because no matter what role you are, you're going to complain that your role is weak compared to other roles. So, for example, me and Caps would always complain that it's the league of bot lane, and that better bot lane wins and all this, while bot lane
it's like
will always, say it's all about mid jungle. So, regardless of what role you are, it's always going to be this way. I think for solo queue, it really doesn't matter what role you are. It's just a big coin flip in a sense.
I mean,
but in competitive, I think for sure mid jungle have a really big impact on the game. Because, for example, like early game, I'm supposed to be the one controlling the game and telling people where enemy jungler is, where I'm gonna gank, what the game plan is, and all this. And if we have mid pressure, then I can do exactly whatever I want. We can gank bot, we can do Drake, we can do Herald, we can do whatever we want. But if Caps is behind, I'm really doomed in the game as well. Because if we don't have mid pressure, then I'm gonna get invaded, and they're gonna do everything themselves. So it's a lot about mid jungle, and the mid jungle 2v2 actually doing well and winning.
Coming back on the solo queue part, I think the way I've always looked at solo queue is that you're gonna win 33% of your games no matter what you do. You're gonna lose 33% of the games no matter what you do. And what actually matters is what you do with the last 33%. So I feel like that's like the mentality a lot of people don't understand, is that they feel like, they lose a game that they shouldn't have lost, but it's just part of the 33% you're going to lose. Like if you have a dirty inter on your team that wants to lose and runs it down, you're going to lose. And as long as you're not one of those dirty inters that actually wants to lose, you're going to win 30%. Yeah. You're going to win a game you're feeding. Like that's just going to happen eventually. You're going to end up winning. Of course, the percentages are just for the sake of the idea, but it's really that last 33% where if you're just trying your hardest to improve and just playing the game purely for the sake of getting better and winning, you're gonna have like a good win rate, or you're gonna like climb. Yeah. And it's gonna take a long time, because at the end of the day, you can have 5 games in a row of the 33% where there's a dirty inter on your team that doesn't want to win the game, and then it sucks. But as long as you keep it up, you're probably gonna have a win streak where you just int it 2 games in a row and you win anyway.
It's definitely a grind. What my an old roommate used to say when we played together was like, look, there's a 1 in 5 chance that there's a troll on the enemy team, right? Let's say there's a 1 in 4 chance on your team, assuming you're not trolling, right? Like statistically, you'll start winning eventually. You're less likely to get trolled if you aren't the one hard inting and running it down, which is what he used to say to me when I would run it down in games. So. Not intentionally. I was just trash. Yeah, dude. I was just a trash.
I gotcha.
I also think right now in the current meta, the game is actually pretty balanced, so it doesn't even matter what role you are. Yeah. I think even top lane right now is really strong in solo queue, where some of the recent months top lane was actually for sure the worst role in solo queue. Like it could be really hard.
Solo queue?
Yeah, in solo queue. Solo queue was a lot like I might be biased, but in my eyes it was pure League of bot lane, right? But now it doesn't matter as much what role you actually are. Like everyone can carry. It's just about using those 33% that Bwipo mentioned to actually step up and just make sure you play consistent. Because if you play consistent, then eventually you should be able to get out of bronze, or you should be able to get some healer, right?
This is an inspirational little.
I think it's important for people to remember. I think that like for me, is good balancing is when you don't have to pick specific champions to win in a specific role.
Yeah.
Like right now, I feel like you can jungle pretty much any type of jungler and have a good game and be able to carry a game or have high impact in a game. Whereas the biggest problem I had with top lane in the few months before this was that top lane was a very high impact role if you were playing Camille. Like if you were playing Camille, then you could hard carry a game and have like high impact. But if you weren't, then you were playing champions like Sion. Whereas like sure you can have high impact and you have a lot of good moments and you can carry a game kind of, but you're not going to actually like 1 versus 5 kill the Nexus. You're not going to end the game on your own or like hard carry team fights or any of this. So right now I feel like you can pick any champion in top lane and have that impact. Like hard carry fights or like play a good game of League of Legends in almost every role.
I'm pumped on solo queue right now. It's honestly a good experience. I completely agree. But let's move on to the tier list. We have some updating to do. So before I'm gonna go grab it. Give me a sec here. The downside of the mic not moving with me is you guys don't get to hear me narrate my movement. I'm also gonna do one other thing.
Ooh.
Come through multiple mics here. I'm gonna borrow this briefly. I feel like it needs to be a fixture for the episode as long as it's here.
Oh my Jesus Christ. I think it's too small, no?
No, it doesn't work at all. Never mind. All right. Put it back.
He's no challenger.
It was a good try. Good idea.
Only Caps can wear it.
Yeah, actually, only for Caps.
All right, boys. I'm back. I tried to put the jacket on Rekkles. It didn't work. So this is the tier list we came up with last time.
We're A tier? What the hell?
Yeah, you guys
Who's
were
trolling? Who's trolling?
Mediocre ass.
Who is trolling?
Last time. This was like after
Hello?
you guys lost some games.
I mean, yeah, but like, come on. Who's trolling?
So
We ended against Splice, fair enough, but the 2 losses we had were against Gold Funnel.
Whole mic thing. Okay, so S tier was G2 Misfits. There was Tide. This was right before they had to play each other. A tier Fnatic, B tier Rocket Vitality. Oh my god, we were so wrong. C tier Unicorns of Love, Giants, Schalke, Splice, D tier H2K.
Wow.
Now there's a lot of movement that needs to happen. I do feel pretty confident that I can say that H2K probably still belong in D tier as they have still
The
not
real question
won a
is
game.
if they win a game, do they go up or not? Do we give them the pity move up?
No, they don't get a pity move. I think you have to win more than one game to get a pity move up.
I think it depends, right? Because last split they were actually horrible in the beginning.
Yeah,
And they flipped around. I'm not saying they
similar
can't
now.
flip it around. I'm just saying one game does not immediately move them up.
And I remember like they were really horrible, and then at the end of the split, they actually looked like one of the better like low tier teams, if you can put it that way. Like they actually
they made
really
playoffs over Misfits, so
They almost beat Vitality. There were like 2 back-to-back games where like a couple people like hard
legit.
and otherwise
That's-
winning
yeah,
games.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean H2K did look really good last season.
We were like H2K over Vitality. Guys, you can do it.
Didn't happen. So H2K still safely in D, I think. Now the question, we just go through one team at a time. Unicorns of Love, Tide currently in 8th place with Giants. Do they still belong in C tier? Do we push them down to D?
No, I don't think anybody deserves to be there.
I think D should be should be done for now.
D is reserved. Got it. All right.
I mean,
Well,
I think so.
We shouldn't be too harsh, but you know they are 0-10.
No,
Let's be
that's the
real.
thing. It's like regardless, they're just actually the worst team in the league. And if D tier is not the spot for the worst team in the league, then who's it a spot for?
I mean, I think you can move Schalke up one.
All right.
I think based on results.
Here. So ignore everything else. If we're just talking about Schalke, they're 4-0.
Yeah.
They're good, looking good. How strong do you think that they're B tier? Do you think they're A tier?
I think they're B. I wouldn't put them on A tier.
Yeah, I would put
because
them on B.
I'm obviously looking at the top 2 there, and there's going to be some movement up there. So I don't think they're quite on the level of the top 3 that we've got going on there. So I feel like B tier is a fine place for Schalke.
This is actually I'm going to take a bunch of magnets off. We're going to go one at a time now.
Holy moly, we're going in.
We're going in. I just realized it's so much harder to adjust. All right, we did Schalke. Schalke, the first team to enter B tier on the new tier list.
I think they can go B.
They're not alphabetical.
They have the potential. They've always had the potential to be A or maybe even S on a really good day. But
I think putting them in B for now is fair because they've been doing pretty well recently, but they didn't play some of the best teams either, so it's hard to
Yeah.
say where they actually belong.
This week they play you guys and G2.
That's basically the test right there.
Yeah,
Like, if they beat us, they can go A or maybe S, depending on how good their performance is there.
Exactly. If they have a good week now, then they can go A tier. If not, then
All
they
right,
can stay in B.
I want to touch on Fnatic versus Schalke a little bit later, but for now, let's find another team. I'm just going to grab one from the pile here. Rocket.
I think they can go B.
Yeah.
They're 5. Also, I feel like we're going to have a fatty B tier this time around.
Don't give them too much credit.
I'm just saying, I feel like there's a lot. If Schalke are B tier at 4 and Rocket's B tier at 5.
I mean, yeah, but I think that's kind of what B tier should be.
Yeah, it's the fattest.
It's kind of the
Grading on
middle
the
of the
curve.
pack, right?
I mean, that's kind of what makes EUCS kind of competitive right now, in the sense that there's like 3 teams competing for a clear first, and then there's like
Giant
6
middle of the pack.
teams trying to compete for middle of the pack. So I feel like that's kind of what makes it competitive right now.
All right, one team on the lower end of that middle of the pack is Unicorns of Love. This is a team that's had some good games. Is also
I mean, after what I witnessed in our game, I'm gonna have to go with a little C here.
I was about to say the same. I think Unicorns can be a good team, but like what they've shown so far has not been great. And let's be real, against us, Caps
Yeah.
went 15-0.
Yeah, I mean,
so putting them in same
we
tie as Schalke and
typically
Rocket.
killed them in a gangplank lane, bot lane. So no, but my point is I feel like they can be a B tier team if their lanes get their shit together and don't like get smashed before Cold can do stuff. I think if they just play patient enough and let Cold do his thing and like actually control the game, then I think they're a B tier team. But right now, their laners aren't good enough to let that happen.
I mean, Cold and Totoro, I feel like, are not too bad when Totoro isn't stuck bot
Yeah,
lane,
exactly.
But then
no,
I
but
get to
that's
watch
my
the
point.
games.
Yeah,
where
exactly. Like where
just
like
get smashed.
the game gets locked because their laners are getting outperformed, and then the game is just boom for Unicorn. So I feel like C is where they belong right now. But if they shore up that weakness, I think a B tier is very realistic.
All right, I'm going to go with the other team, tied in standings right now with the Unicorns of Love. Giants. This is a team that has played League of Legends in our league. They've looked all right.
They beat Aatrox, so S tier. No, jokes.
They beat Aatrox. They beat G2. They've had super up and down performances. I don't know. I thought Steelback had a couple good games recently, which is not something I always expect from the dude who's had been struggling for
He's
a few years
also
now.
had a few mediocre ones.
Of course, but he's had some mediocre ones. Betsy's looked pretty decent as well. Are they in the C tier threshold as well, or are they going to move up to B tier?
I just like, for me, it's hard to imagine I want to say win condition, but you know what I mean? Like when I think Giants, I don't think like this player is going to make the game good.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a C, but maybe Broxah has a different opinion.
I think it's for sure C as well, and I think Giants and Unicorns have a similar problem in the sense that when they go up against most teams, they have weaker lanes. So already before the game has started, they're actually
At a disadvantage.
Yeah, they have a disadvantage already, and both of their I think both of the junglers are good. I think Cold is good and Joko is good, but these guys have a really hard time shining because as a jungler, you depend a lot on your lanes, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And these guys need to really pop off every single game for the teams to actually secure wins to go up in the standings. So I think having both of them down there is pretty fair.
All right. I like it. I mean, so far, B tier Schalke Rocket, C tier Giants Unicorns Love, D tier H2K kind of lining up with how the standings look right now, which is cool and is always interesting to see like where the differences are. Next team is Vitality. It's a team that's struggled for a while. There's a lot of arguments that we're having on broadcast right now about as to whether or not this team is actually like improving or getting better, or if what used to work for them is just no longer working. Where do you guys see them right now, and like what do you think of this team in general?
I actually think they're C tier personally. I feel like the problem they have is that when the game goes bad, they just run it down mid with 5 people and they pray to God that they win a fight. And I don't think that's League of Legends. I just think that that's what they're doing. That's the same thing that happened against Misfits when the game was really good. Like at the end of the day, they just ran it down mid and just try to get 5v5 team fights. And when they lost the game. I don't feel like it has anything to do with macro. I don't think it has anything to do with being a good team, which means that you have a few decent individual players and you're trying to just, I don't know, like it feels really troll, and I feel like that kind of performance should just be
So
C.
before I let you get in here, Brox, I'm curious what changed, because like this was a team. Remember the 7-1? They look pretty good, top 4 EU LCS. What's different for you this season, or would you like in the grand scheme of things always have called Vitality
I think
a C tier team?
I think for me personally, I feel like when they were 7-1, they were playing through mid lane really well, and I think that playing through mid was actually the way to go since spring. And then through him, they played through the side lane with Rise specifically and other champions really well, so that their macro game was actually good. You know, like they were a good team because of this, because they were able to play through mid, play the macro game, and win the game. But now they're not playing through mid, or even when they're trying, it's not working, and then they're running it down mid as 5 people and just trying to get a fight.
All right, C tier. I mean, I know, and those guys are going to be sad about the C tier, upset about the C tier. But Broxah, what's the thing?
Personally, I would not put them in C tier. I think that's a little too harsh.
I mean,
I do agree that their way of playing the game is not the greatest. They don't have the best macro, but at the same time, they do have really, really strong individual players. And I think the problem for them is just that they rely too much on that individual strength and actually snowballing due to their lack of playing the game properly in mid-late game. And yeah, comparing the teams, I think Vitality simply is just a better team for various reasons than Unicorns and Giants. I think they have strong lanes. They're pretty good at playing early game. Their mid game is okay, but as Bwipo mentioned, if it comes down to macro, then they do struggle a bit, but same does Unicorns and Giants, right? So I think on paper, Vitality is a better team than those two, mainly due to individual strength, and therefore I would probably put them between C and B, to be honest.
yeah, I mean, that's fair.
I think
if we could, a B minus.
Yeah,
is
so
allowed.
B minus, or if there was like an E tier for each.
I think
put them in the
C
new
is pretty
C tier.
unfair. B is a little too high. I think if they fix their macro problems and put some more
I mean,
strategy
like obviously,
into the game,
Rocket and
then they
Schalke
can
have their
move
own
up, but
fair share of issues. I just have a personal vendetta against the running it down mid. I feel like this is not an answer, definitely not as an LCS team.
I mean, I'm going to agree. I'm going to be the tiebreaker. You're going to put him at the top. We can call it the top of C if you want. You can call him
Sure,
whatever. But
yeah.
I'll put him in C. But
guess
I
that's
mean,
fine.
I respect
It's
your point.
okay.
I think that they are
yeah.
above Giants and Unicorns.
For sure,
I
for
completely
sure.
agree with that, Broxah. Like, I don't want to take away from that, but I think that this is a team that has tried this for so long, and that
It's just
Jizuke looked like a god last split for sure.
Yeah, no,
looked like he was
that's-
really smurfing, and you're right that they were playing. And while they were cheesing a lot, like Gillia's level 2 ganked for an entire half a season, like
actually,
it worked and it played out well for them.
Gilius' pathing was like ended up being the pathing everybody did. So like he started, I'm pretty sure. Like he was one of the first people to do like camp buff and just gank immediately and just live in the river basically. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he was one of the first people, especially on like the Trundle, I remember. So like props to them
I just
for
remember
that.
the level 2 Jax ganks. Just the
Yeah,
chain
like
of
stuff
those,
like
that's
this.
all I remember.
I think they just rely too much on the. It's a bit like us last year. They rely too much on animal style and making the game
Yeah.
crazy and getting a hit, whereas us and Fnatic actually moved past that and got some macro and strategy into the game. It's not just pure fighting anymore, but Vitality never really got past that point. They just still play animal mode and rely on getting a hit early.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like if they just stop, if they learn how to lose gracefully, I feel like they immediately move up to B tier. Or
Absolutely.
if they can
No.
For sure.
stop going.
I think they would enjoy some losing gracefully therapy like I did.
The beast has never been leashed in the history of Vitality. I think is the lesson here. All right, next on the list, with no A tier or S tier teams yet, Splice now comes up.
Okay, here I'm gonna step in fast before we put Splice in C tier because I don't know want to see Splice in C tier.
I'm not trolling. At least these guys play sideways.
I think
I hope.
Splice deserves to be in B tier for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Splice overall is a pretty good team. They're just a little too inconsistent, and I think that also showed that Rift Rivals were like in the first round of Rift Rivals they were struggling against every team, and then they come in the best of 5 when it actually mattered and just absolutely destroyed the toughest NA team.
Yeah,
and I think generally looking at their mid-late game, they are a pretty good team, but I don't know. You just never really know what's coming from them. Like I think against us, they played pretty well overall. They abused our mistakes pretty well. I know Bwipo is not.
I'm not convinced because that was the reason we lost that game. So I think I was just playing really poorly. But
so what?
Either way, like they have the potential to win against every team, but they're just really inconsistent.
Yeah. So what do you think is the biggest inconsistencies plaguing them? Like where do you see that inconsistency on the Splice as a team?
I feel like it's Xerxes' really inefficient pathing. Actually, I think in general he's a player that has opts into taking very inefficient pathing to try and make something happen. And when it does, the game is usually good. But when it doesn't is when he ends up not having the greatest experience in the jungle. And I feel like his laners have to suffer because he ends up having to catch up and farms a lot. And I feel like he's one of the type of players that like will sit around the lane or create a way to path to like be around one lane for like 2 or 3 minutes at a time. Like I know, because obviously in that game I had a little trundle for 5 minutes in my lane, but I mean, like, you know, like, it was a Camille. Like, he was really around top lane the entire game. But that's what I'm saying. If those ganks don't work and he's spending that much effort into trying to make something happen topside, the game is not going to be good for him. And I feel like that is the biggest reason for their inconsistency, is that I feel like they target one lane and then they're bad at transferring the advantages to the other lanes. So like in between, like for example, if top lane is really far ahead, I don't get the feeling like they're translating this into mid lane very quickly. It's just that like their top lane gets further and further ahead, much like with mid lane when Niski like pops off on Zoe, for example. He just gets bigger and bigger. Same with Cassiopeia. I don't get the feeling that like they're translating those advantages into the other lanes rather than just capitalizing on the fact that they're ahead, get further ahead, and then hopefully they, you know, the team can like profit from the scraps, you know, like get a little more global gold and all this stuff, and obviously a few more minion waves because of the pressure, but meh.
I think also looking at Xerxes now compared to last split, he's a bit more random now, it feels like. As Bwipo mentioned, his paths are a little weird and you never really know what's coming, but last split he was really controlled, and for the most part, if you didn't actually play properly or if you wasted too much time trying to gank, you would fall behind, and this guy would, like, he would not be fun to play against. He would smack you. But now there's a bit more wriggle room playing against him in a way. And yeah, I don't know. I think Splice just has had a pretty hard time getting back into it for some reason. Like after that break, they seem a little lost at times, and they definitely need to. Well, it's similar to us. Like it took us a while to get back into our routines and everything again. And I think Splice has same problem, but just are still pretty far from actually fixing it. Yeah,
and we just haven't seen that consistency yet, because, I mean, you talk about the Liquid game, there are a few other games where they really do take off and they do look good, and now I'm eyes on Xerxes pathing to see like how that looks over the weeks coming. But we'll put them in B tier for now. We'll see if they can take the next step. 3 teams left. G2, Fnatic, Misfits. We'll save Fnatic for last. How about that? Just for the dramatic effect here.
I mean, I could put it up there right now if you want.
Do you want to just slam? Where do you think that Fnatic goes?
Where do we think it's going to go?
Where do I think you're going to put it in S. Right in the middle of S here.
Yeah. We all know why.
I mean, we don't all know why.
I'm pretty sure you know why we're in the middle.
Because you now have control of the beast, or what?
No. Because I think we're one step ahead of the other LCS teams. But
that was what S tier's for. I don't know why you needed to be in the middle, too.
No, but I was in the middle because I think we're the only team.
You're the only team. I see. So you've center aligned it. Got it. All right. You think you're the only S tier team? I assume means that Misfits and G2 are both A tier.
I think so personally. Of course, Broxah probably is going to put one of them in S tier.
I think it can be a little hard to argue against if we go deep into it. At least looking at how our LCS games has looked like, because we have been pretty inconsistent. And if you look at a team like Misfits, they have been doing pretty well, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like they're just all right, you know. It's not like they have high highs or anything, or that they're necessarily really, really difficult to play against. They're just pretty consistent. But I think we already are starting to get to that point where we can eventually, or maybe call ourselves the best team in Europe.
Take stage performance out for a second, Brock. So you tell me right now, levels of teams, do you think Fnatic is S tier? Not can someone in the public be like, what about those inconsistent games? Tell me where you think Fnatic is right now.
I think that Fnatic is the best team. And I would also do something similar. I think it can be argued whether G2 should be in S tier as well. But I would put Misfits in A tier for sure.
Wait, so the argument isn't whether or not Misfits are
He's going in with
S tier. The argument is whether or not G2 are S tier. That's interesting. I'm putting this over here. I appreciate the ego move, but you're good. You're still the sole team there.
Basically, my idea is that I feel like the games that we lost were purely because of our fault. Like, we didn't lose to the enemy team. We lost our own mistakes. Is how I feel, at least. Like the first funnel game we lost on stage, I feel like that's because we like heavily misjudged on what champions we need to be playing in funnel. The next game we lost, we gave them a very, very, very strong funnel combo, knowing they were going to pick it, and we just rolled with it, and it bit us in the ass. And in the Splice game, I keep telling everybody that one was my fault for sure. So I feel like we're losing to ourselves, and I feel like when we're losing to ourselves, then I don't have the feeling that any other team is really beating us. And if no other team is beating us, then I don't think they're better than us. see how that works.
I think when it comes down to our matches against Misfits and G2 specifically, all of us have been left with the feeling that like the first 2 losses were just straight up because of gold funnel more than anything.
Yeah.
And of course you can argue that gold funnel is an important part of the game, and if you can't play it or play against it properly, then you don't deserve to be at the top. But the strategy is pretty sad in a way, and it requires you. Like, it just doesn't require as much strategy and proper play as playing normally, at least from my perspective. And
The slave.
and yeah, I just think that I think Misfits and G2 are okay, but I think already now we are showing much higher highs than these 2 teams are.
I think so too. I think the main reason I'm putting this up here is because if our practice goes the way we need it to or want it to, and we can all adjust to our roles in the team, which is one thing that I'm trying really hard to do right now with controlling the beast, because that's part of the role, and we can play through our strengths, then this is what the tier list will be for the rest of the split. This is what I'm almost convinced of.
You mean Fnatic will be S? You're not predicting for anybody else moving? Or
no, obviously not. I mean, this is like this is what the top end will look like, and I don't imagine any of these teams contesting these 2 teams, because at the end of the day, like I think Misfits and G2 are probably A+. I don't think they're like we're putting them A, right?
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I think they're closer to S than any of the other teams are, and I feel like that's the annoying part of having S and A. But I think that as long as we keep up the performance and go the direction we need to go or want to go to be able to perform internationally, this is what it's going to continue to look like from my perspective, at least.
All right. So one last time to the tier list: S tier Fnatic, A tier Misfits and G2, B tier is Schalke, Rocket, and Splice, C tier is Unicorns, Giants, and Vitality. Should note that Broxah put them in like a B-, put them in a C+, just to save some face here so that these guys don't get blown up on Twitter. And HTK, sole possession of D tier.
I mean, yeah, like when I said this is what the tier list is going to look like, obviously I didn't take into account the lower tier teams, but I'm okay with moving. Like, I'm sure there's going to be fluctuation in the middle of the pack there. Like, that's just natural. Sure. It's just more the top end.
I think the bigger takeaway is that you guys are uncontested in S tier. And that leaves one last thing I want to touch on is Schalke this week, match of the week.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Like, again, like I think that's, for example, where Schalke can maybe move up a tier if they perform really well.
Are you worried at all?
Like Schalke? I said, I think the only thing I'm worried about is that we win the game for them. That's like the main thing I'm worried about, is that as long as we have our own game and especially me perform as expected, we're gonna win.
Okay, so here's the one final question for this matchup: Year the Duck, does it die here if Caps just, or is Caps? Are they going to be on even footing? Is it going to be Year the Duck versus Caps King of the mid lane?
I think when it comes to the mid lane matchup specifically, Caps has a pretty big edge over Nukeduck. Nukeduck has been playing really well, and Schalke is on a win streak. But looking at the teams they played, they haven't played the best teams yet. And as we talked about earlier, now it's going to come down to them actually proving that they can belong at the top and match us in G2. But like, I think it's going to be really rough for them. I think looking at the mid lane, Caps is going to give Nukeduck a hard time, and I think me and Caps also have much better synergies than Nukeduck and Amazing. I think their synergy has been really poor, and I think generally speaking, me and Caps play really well together. So, well, we already talked about mid jungle being so important, and I would be surprised if we don't win mid jungle.
I'm excited. I want to see that game, of course, coming up on Friday. Gentlemen, the last thing, I promised some Twitter questions. We asked about 50 of them at once when we talked about Rekkles, but let's get in one or two about you guys. So this one is from Danny at D3RD, Dirt Danny, but with lead speak. Danny asks, what would you guys do for a living if esports didn't exist or you hadn't become pro players?
I think I would have a pretty normal life in a sense. I would probably be studying something at the university. Beforehand in high school, I was studying communication and IT, learning about Photoshop, all this kind of stuff.
Good skill.
Could go in a similar direction, but be on the other side of it, be behind the camera or something. I'm not sure about exactly what I would study, but I would be at the university for sure.
Yeah, Bwipo, you're another interesting case because you dropped out to pursue this. So.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the reasons is because I really had no ambition in school. Like I was going to school for the sake of this is what everybody else does, and I feel like when I'm living my life, like I felt like I should probably make an important decision where I want to go with my life at some point. figured why not start early. So the main reason I did is because I didn't like, even if I finished high school, you know, I'd probably be stuck for a few months just trying to figure out what the hell do I want to study? Like, where do I want to go with my life? What am I actually going to enjoy doing for the rest of my life? So I actually don't know.
Luckily, you don't have to answer that question.
Exactly.
Baby.
I
Forever.
I found what I wanted to do like pretty early, so I'm happy I did. But I think,
yeah, I think from both of us, it's impossible to say exactly where we would be if we were not here right now. And Bwipo said like he wasn't too interested in going to school. For me, it was kind of similar when I was almost finished high school and I looked at what I want to do in the future. And I sat down with my mom, looked at all possible things I could study, but constantly I had in the back of my mind, you know, going pro in League of Legends, and it just completely overshined everything, which is why it's so hard to say what I would actually do or what I would study if I didn't end up going pro.
Some people, you know, this is SOAS Baker story, so it's always interesting to see like what other people had planned before esports or if people planned for this. But also, like, I think you guys both came up in the era where there was like you could see other people had a career path here. Yeah. Last question, Marion, FNC_Marion, clearly a Fnatic fan. How'd you guys do the level 1 kill versus Misfits? She was really excited about it. She said it was amazing. But just in general, I'm curious from an outside perspective. You guys, that was a dirty, very clearly planned level 1. Who plans your level 1s? What's the process like for putting that kind of thing together?
So I think the level 1 was actually a combination between Joey and SOAS. At first, Joey had made a clear plan of what we were going to do level 1 with going into the top side, getting a ward on their blue, and then put wards in Pixel and all these things that we did. But then SOAS at one point mentioned that we could do this, but at the same time he was pretty convinced we could go in the top bush and actually camp there, and he would be able to push their top laner up into us so we could get first blood, like do the same thing but get first blood as well. And then, well, it was, I wouldn't call it random, but it was actually something he mentioned pretty shortly before we went on stage. So when we went on stage, me and SOAS went into a custom game, and we were both, you know, actually testing how the vision worked. Like it was kind of random. Like it was right before we played, so we were testing, and I was
to make sure you absolutely could not be spotted.
Yeah, exactly. So SOAS would go in that bush right on the top lane, and I would try to walk back and forth in the vision range, so that we actually didn't mess it up when we did it on stage. And yeah, it was just a really good plan made by Joey, and then SOAS capitalized on it and actually secured us first blood on top of it.
Awesome.
The funny thing is, at the start of the game, you see pings, because they're like, I'm asking, where the hell do I go, guys? Like, where like me and Hilly are like, well, where the hell do we go? Because like it was only Broxah and SOAS that practiced it. So like Broxah was like pinging, like, this is where I need to be, you know, like this is how we're going to move.
Like even if you look at the clip now, you will see that when we are in the top lane bush and we're about to walk to the wall, I am the one walking first, because Bwipo and Huli are walking right behind me, making sure they don't mess it up.
Click on me. He's like, click on me. Like, we got this.
It was literally walk right behind me and we will be fine. And you know, I walk and they walk behind me, and it worked out.
I've just been told there's also going to be a mic check. The producer for EUphoria is also the producer for a mic check, so he's like, it's there, pings and all. Like, don't worry, it's making it in, boys. The world can see the brilliance of the Fnatic level 1. All right, well, thanks to everyone who submitted questions. Thanks especially to people who submitted questions for the guests and not about Rekkles. I know you guys want the information. I hope you got some of it from the start of the podcast and throughout. One final thing, we need a bet. Officio's not here, so I need to bet something sufficiently embarrassing for him. We talked briefly before. You guys have big ambitions. Bwipo, you said you're going to be S tier forever. Do you guys think you're going to win Summer Split?
I mean, I think we'd disappoint if we didn't, because, well, the thing is with the upwards trend that I've been having in my performance in bot lane, at least personally, because obviously, like, I don't pop off as hard necessarily. I don't get 10 kills a game anymore, but at least I feel like my performance is controlled and there is strategy behind what I'm doing instead of just smashing people that have no idea what my champion is doing. Yes, but of course, there's a chance that, you know, the lineup swaps again, and that obviously brings up other issues, but also other strengths. And whilst I'm convinced that we would still win Summer with Rekkles on the lineup instead of me, and maybe me in the top lane, maybe not, I know for a fact that as long as the meta allows me to be in the bot lane, with the growth that we're having, we will win Summer Split with me in the bot lane. I think with Rekkles, the chance is equally high, if not higher. But I don't know if I'll be on that lineup, so I don't have to put my balls on the table.
Question is then, what do we do? What do we do for stakes? Because we'll bet against you. I'm going to speak for Deficio here. We'll bet. We'll bet against you. We'll bet that I don't know someone else will get it, and that's the nice thing about this bet is it just has to be not Fnatic for us to win. Downside is that if you guys are S tier, which is still going to be the case, may not be the safest bet. What do we bet though? You suggested hair dye. Have we forbidden dancing? I asked about dancing.
Nah,
no dancing, no singing.
Singing I can go for. Singing is troll. Like singing, like you can just like you can run it down singing and it's funny, but if you run it down dancing, it's just, you know what I mean? You need to be good at running it down dancing, you know?
I actually think the opposite. I think singing would be much worse than dancing.
Oh, no, hell no. You can troll.
But that makes, both of those two ideas kind of go away, right?
All right, we mentioned hair dye. Alternatively...
Yeah, maybe. I mean, what is really embarrassing for the fisher, you think? I really don't care about a haircut, I can go bald right now and I really don't care.
That's the thing, is that he has to care because he's all
pretty. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he cares about going bald.
He definitely cares about going bald.
You care about going bald. I think Broxah cares about it. Yeah.
Broxah would also care. You could get something shaved in the side of the head.
Yeah,
I think for me, something about like hair dyeing would be kind of weird or really like blonde or something. It would look really funny.
Honestly, it'd be pretty funny. Like if we don't make first place, we get the logo of the team that won like cut into your hair. I think that would be really funny actually. And if we win, you have to cut in Fnatic here. Like that would be really funny actually.
I'm so down.
I think that's really funny. It's really troll, but like I actually think that would be funny.
All right, I'm doing it.
Okay.
Just
here on the side?
Just here, like just
I don't even know what
Fisher's
haircut is, but yeah, you can for sure get the.
I think Hai did that before with Cloud9, right?
He did.
I mean, it's possible. I don't know.
So logos are also hard. So if worst comes worst, you can get their 3-letter abbreviation. Because I just don't know how talented these barbers are going to be. But I'm down.
We should get one that can do it.
We should get one that.
We should all go to the same barber no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. We should just like try and schedule it because I think that would be really, really cool actually. Like if you guys walk around with the Fnatic thing, like I respect.
All right.
Imagine casting a Worlds and it's still there.
That would be so good.
We have a couple weeks. We'll see if Riot Games is not too pleased. All right.
That's a good plan.
Let's do it. All right. So if Fnatic wins, you guys have to. You and Deficio have to get FNC or the Fnatic logo shaved into the side of our head.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you guys have to get the team that beat you's logo shaved under your head.
Yeah. So the team that beat us gets to be right there.
Yeah.
I think that's like a good bet.
Good, wholesome fun here on
But of course, if I shave my head, like I'll wear it up until maybe Worlds, and if it's still there, I might have to shave it off.
Yeah, that's fair.
Going on stage with that logo.
Look, you don't have to. Let's just say you don't have to have it by Worlds, because I also can't guarantee that broadcast.
Exactly.
You're casting Fnatic. You can't have a Fnatic.
Exactly.
I think if we lose to a team, like imagine walking around with the Misfits logo on my
a
few weeks.
You gotta keep
every
it
time I look in the mirror, I see Misfits after losing.
That's just funny though.
It can be gone by the start of Worlds. That's fair. All right, we take it. All right.
Let's go there.
Shaving logos into the side of our heads is the bet, with Fnatic winning the entire splits. This is a long-term bet, but I'm excited to see. All right, thanks guys for coming on. Thanks to everyone who asked questions, etc. Thanks for bringing the caps thing and telling me that. That's great. Be intimidated, other EU LCS mid laners. You guys can watch these fine gentlemen in the match of the week on Friday as they go toe-to-toe with Schalke. I'm ready for it. I'm excited.
I hope I'll be there.
Hopefully, maybe not.
That's the thing.
Will Rekkles come back? Find out. EU LCS. Otherwise, this has been EUphoria episode 6. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.